Lacrosse was being played in central New York and southern Ontario centuries before any explorers arrived from Europe. The region is the cradle of lacrosse. To the indigenous peoples, the sport was a gift from the Creator, a game played to bring people together, to resolve conflicts, or as a healing game, powerful medicine to treat the sick.
It has multiple features within it that are medicine, so it uplifts your spirits and brings good thoughts and positive thoughts and goodwill to the community and yourself.
Its roots in religious ceremony make lacrosse unique among all other sports.
It's said that the game was given to us by the Creator for His enjoyment, to watch us play, to keep us healthy and strong, to keep you moving.
The earliest accounts of Europeans seeing the game in North America date from 1637. Jesuit missionaries in Canada thought the sticks looked like a bishop's crozier, so they called the game lacrosse.
What they saw was, first of all, a team, two major teams, which must have been impressive to them. Because whenever they saw, and the history of the Jesuits, with France and Europe and so forth, is when you saw two large groups of men on each side, that was war. Nations could play a game to settle a problem, settle something that, okay, let's play a game, winner takes all. And to settle it instead of having war.
In 1763, during the French and Indian War, a group of Hurons used the lacrosse game as a diversion to gain entry, then subdue a British fort in northern Michigan. But the sport wasn't designed to train for war.
It got tagged or labeled the little brother of war. But when you talk about lacrosse and to the Haudenosaunee and the Onondaga specifically, we don't talk about it about a replacement of war. It's more of a celebration of your skills and abilities. So that's really part of that misinterpretation that even continues today, and understanding the what can be the brutality of the game, but also the beauty of the game as well.
Lacrosse was played only by native men until the 1830s, when a series of exhibition matches was played for white audiences in Montreal. It kindled an interest that led to the establishment of the Montreal Lacrosse Club and several others in the ensuing decades. The goalie for the Montreal club, William George Beers, thought the game needed to be civilized.
When George Beers wrote the rules down for this game, First Nations players, Haudenosaunee, Mohawk, Iroquois players, were the stars of the game, and they dominated the game wherever they played. Their fitness level was higher, their skill was higher. I think George Beers wanted to even the playing field by putting in Rule 9, which said that the Haudenosaunee or Mohawk players were professionals and therefore couldn't play in this Victorian age of amateurism.
It was a race-based discrimination, but it was because Aboriginal players were so good at the game that non-natives felt that it was unfair that they would be competing in these games. And they deemed native players professionals. Now, native players at this time in Haudenosaunee communities are professionals, and they're openly professional. They're getting paid for their travel. But really, you start to see championship competitions come in, and non-native groups want to win these competitions.
What seems to be clear is there's these ongoing relationships, antagonisms that are between European Americans and native players, but it all takes place on the field. In some ways, you could see lacrosse as sort of negotiating or arbitrating those difficulties in a larger culture. After all, this is a time when native people are being stripped of their lands and their cultures, right? So that has to be kept in the background. So there are these antagonisms between settler people and indigenous people.
Dr. Beers, who went on to lead Quebec's first dental college, organized 3 trips to Great Britain beginning in 1867. Large crowds turned out to see a team of Mohawks and Caughnawagas led by Big John Baptiste play a squad of Canadian club players. The trip in 1876 included a ceremony and game at Windsor Castle for Queen Victoria.
The trips that started in 1867 over to England were huge for the future of the game. The Montreal Lacrosse Club was involved in all 3 of those trips, and the Kahnawake Mohawk were involved in all 3 of those trips.
When it becomes a kind of gentrified Ivy League field phenomenon, right? Then native players were excluded from the game. They weren't allowed to play.
In the native culture, women were discouraged from playing. Organized women's lacrosse was born in Scotland in 1890 at St. Leonard's School. The headmistress had traveled to Montreal in 1884, where they saw a game between the Montreal club and a Caughnawaga team. Louise Lumsden called it a wonderful game, beautiful and graceful. Girls at St. Leonard's started playing in 1890. Rosabelle Sinclair was a St. Leonard's graduate who came to the U.S. in 1922 as a physical education teacher at the Bryn Mawr School in Baltimore, a private girls' prep school. She became athletic director and in 1926 organized the first women's lacrosse team in this country.
Hi, I'm Sam Lawson.
And I'm Adriana Piontek.
I'm Kristen Wood.
And we are all seniors on the Mason Girls Lacrosse team. Girls lacrosse is a spring sport played on a regulation soccer field where there are 12 players, 3 attack, 5 midfield, 3 defense, and 1 goalie. The object of the game is to score more than your opponents in a 50-minute 2-half game. The game begins with a draw between the 2 players. The referee places the ball between these 2 players' sticks and then backs away from them. When the referee blows the whistle, the players will lift their sticks up and away from their opponent in an attempt to direct the ball to a teammate. This is a critical part of the game because without the ball, you can't score.
All right, a women's or college level lacrosse game is going to be lasting an hour in length. It's 30-minute halves with normally maybe a 15-minute halftime. Each team is allowed 2 timeouts per half. And in high school level or girls lacrosse, the halves are 25 minutes, making it a 50-minute game with the same amount of timeouts. And if you get a yellow card, you're possibly looking at a 2-minute long penalty time where you, the player, are pulled out of the game. And you get yellow cards for different types of fouls, generally ones that are really unnecessarily rough or cause like injury to the other player. And as far as players on the team on the field, there's 5 offensive or attackers on the field for each team, and 6 defenders, including the goalie, that'll be out there.